Welcome to the January. Yeah, I know it's the 1st of February, but it's still the January webinar. Still people coming in. I think as people join, we'll just carry on and we'll go ahead with the. We'll go ahead with housekeeping, things like that. Stephen, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah. So, are you sharing screen? Okay. So before we begin, we're going to go through the housekeeping. So today's session is going to be recorded and will be shared with all registrants later this week. Would like to share the recording with your colleague who was unable to attend, or if you would like to revisit any of the content covered in today's sessions, you can. A copy of the slides and the Q&A will also be sent to all registrants next week. The audio for this session is available through your computer speakers or by dialing in by phone. If you're experiencing poor sound quality at any time through your computer speakers, you may wish to try down to the session by phone instead. Accessing your device settings at the top of your screen within the team session. Click on the three dots for more settings, then select device settings, and a device setting area will open on your right-hand side. Participants will remain muted throughout the session. However, which can also be accessed via the top of your screen within Teams. We will be monitoring these throughout the session, so please submit any questions or comments you may have So moving forward to the presenters of today. As always, you'll be joined by myself and Imogen. We also have a new team member that we're going to introduce very soon. And we're also joined by Lee and Sean from the Birmingham University as well. And we're going to have a chance to also meet them. The agenda for today. So we have this DCS team update. So we're going to introduce our new team member. We have DCS updates, which will be presented by Imogen. We have the data manipulation, which will be presented by Lee and Sean. And at the end, we're going to have an open Q&A. So you can pop them in the chat.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Stephen. So first up, we have a team update. As many of you know, Cameron, who'd been with us for about 2 years, left in the autumn, leaving the team as me and Stephen. I'm delighted to tell you that we have now recruited and we have another customer support advisor. So I'd like to introduce Stephen Leach, who's our new customer support advisor. Now, due to operational accidents, we haven't yet got him on the presenter board. So, Stephen, I'm not sure if you're able to put your camera on or not. Can you give it a try and see if you can?
Might not be able, so maybe we can introduce him later on.
Oh no! Oh, yeah. That's gutting. Okay, never mind. Well, Stephen will be on camera next time. But now, if you send anything into help desk, then you'll get an answer from Stephen. But it might not be this Stephen. It might also be Stephen Leach, who's joining us with oodles of support from oodles of places, and he can tell you about it next time once we get him on the right side of the camera. So. Slight logistical accident there. Super. Let's move on then to DCS updates. We released, we had one quickly followed by another release in January. So the big change has been adding the assignee column on the active request page. So I don't know if I've got the, I need the laser pointer. There we go. So the assignee column here. Why did we do this? Well, a lot of people were saying that it's very hard to pick up your requests because it was very hard to tell which ones were assigned to you, which ones weren't, see who was doing what. So the assignee column, you can now sort by assignee, you presumably can search by assignee as well, and hopefully it'll make it easier to find things. I think we've already been getting some positive feedback on that, so hopefully you're finding that useful. The other things in that release were some back-end security updates. Oh, sorry, I was just going to point out that there will now be an assignee for every state apart from new academic request, which of course doesn't yet have anyone assigned to it. So of course it's blank. We have also made a fix on default sorting on the active request page. So we had really it was a glitch where it would always default to the added on date whenever you clicked away, which was very frustrating, I think, if trying to process multiple things. So the system now retains the last sort preference. So if you move away, if you log out, log back in, it will remember how you'd sorted it, in this case by requester. Just a quick reminder, the sort buttons are to the right. Even if it's far away, they're always to the right of the heading. We also, and this is a very minor one, we've found another place where we had the amount of students. So we've updated that to number of students. We did this on the main page as part of the rebrand recently, and we've now just made that consistent throughout. We spotted a place where we'd missed it before. And finally, there were a couple of bug fixes. So there was a problem that a number of you reported about confirming ownership after the release on the 8th of January. So the team worked rapidly to fix that, and on the 11th we were able to fix that, meaning that you could confirm you owned a title and actually create requests if you were doing that manually. So that's what's happened. What's next? So we are just in the final stages of confirming exactly how this is going to work, getting the schedule together. But we're going to be adding filters to the columns in the completed request table. This is a DIY mock-up, not the actual thing, because it's not been done yet. But it should help you find what you need more quickly, and hopefully, because it will retain the previous filters, it should help load the page more quickly as well. Most of the columns are going to have a free text filter, so basically all of these, when you start to type after 3 characters, then it will start to dynamically filter. And then we'll have drop downs for the ones where it's a kind of predefined subset. So is the status, is it archived or live? And then what kind of content is it, crowdsourced, born digital, etc. In terms of timing, yeah, as I say, we're just finalising the fine details before beginning development. ETA is, I was going to say end of February. It might be early March by now to release this, but it's coming very soon. And lost my clicky thing. There we go. We're also going to do a born digital load. Whether that is made live at the same time or there's a slight difference, I'm not entirely sure yet. We'll work through that as we go. But this born digital work is going to improve the page offset. So with the large load that we did in the autumn, about 130,000 titles, there were quite a few that were loaded with no page offset. So the page offset, sorry, is where where the PDF numbering, so 1 to, I don't know, 465, is different to the printed pages because you've got basically prefix Roman numerals at the beginning for introductions, etc. So we have an offset to make sure that when you type in, I want pages 72 to 85, that's actually what you get, as opposed to ones that are a little bit different due to Roman numerals I to XII. Anyway, so obviously that's done in an automated fashion. We didn't sit down through 130,000 titles manually, but the algorithm that did it was quite tight. So we've kind of widened out the parameters a little bit, and we'll rerun, I think it's about 10,000 that came through with no offset whatsoever. So that should pick that up, and once that's loaded in, the page numbering for any that were wrong should improve. I hope that made sense. And then we're also going to load, we've got about 10,000 new titles ready to go, so we'll pop those in at the same time. This is how it's looking at the moment. Obviously, as we start to load them, some of them fail for different reasons. Maybe the PDF's corrupt, or there's whatever the issue is. But going into the top of the funnel, this is what's happening. You'll see at the bottom we've got Faber. Now that's TBC how many. It's hot off the press, or the digital press, in the sense that they have only just signed the contract to bring their titles into Born Digital. So we're just checking through how many we've got of them, but that's quite exciting. We'll have Faber titles for the first time with this load as well. So this is what's coming next. The only other thing that I might mention is that some of you are involved in some workshops that we're carrying out. We had the first one at the beginning of this week in London. I'm meeting some people in Manchester next week, and then in Edinburgh the week after, and then we'll have an online session in Wales. And so thank you very much to people who came on, when was it, Tuesday, and very much looking forward to meeting those of you who we're going to meet later. This is a kind of very high level session looking at where do we take the platform next. So we've been focusing on stability over the past 6 months to a year, looking now at where do we go and what are going to be the most important things to improve, to work on, to bring in online as we go forward. So as and when we get more clarity on that, I'll obviously share it with everybody, but just to let you know that this is something that's going on. Super. So I think that's all I have to tell you in terms of DCS. So I'm going to invite Lee and Sean to take over the share and tell us all about how they work with data at Birmingham City. So I invited that we had an engagement call, gosh, it was some months ago now, but they were talking me through what they do with the data that comes from the DCS, how they take it, pair it up with other things, and they're doing a very nice job of it, and I thought it would be useful to share, and other people might be interested to see. So I'd like to pass over to Lee and Sean to tell us more. I think you're on mute though.
Well spotted.
There you go.
Thank you very much. My first question was to ask, can everybody hear me? And I think we've just answered that. So yeah, lovely. Thank you, Imogen. Yeah, I will share my screen, kill my camera and share my screen. So just bear with me 1 second.
In the meantime, Stephen has made it onto the right side of the camera. So while you're finding your screen share, maybe we can introduce Stephen Leach very briefly, who you can hopefully now see. Do you want to say hi?
Yes. Hello, everyone.
Oh, well, that was brief.
Sorry, that took a while. But yes, no, very happy to be here. And
there we go.
Great. Thank you. And in the meantime, Lee is now ready, so I'm going to mute and over to you.
Lovely, thank you. Yes, sorry for the slight delay there, but yeah, hopefully we're good to go now. So yeah, first up, thanks to Imogen for inviting us along today, to talk a little bit about the work we've been doing with data. So that's very much appreciated, and thanks everybody for attending as well. That's very much appreciated. So we're going to talk a little bit about our digitisation request and engagement dashboard. Now, I'm Lee Jones. I'm the digitisation supervisor, and I've been working closely with Sean on this particular project for a while now. So I'll just give you a little bit of information on that and what we've been doing and what we think the future could hold for this particular project as well. Okay, so yeah, it just seems to be a slight delay on the slides at the minute for some reason, so bear with me. But just as a little bit of background, we're a small team based in library and learning resources, and we look after digitisation and copyright. And when I say a small team, we are a very small team. There's literally 2 or 3 of us that look after the DCS and the production of digitisation and copyright material. We've been in this business for quite some time, and we've had a digital library service of some sort or another for probably about 23, close to 24 years now. I'm not sure I quite feel old enough to have been around that long, but sadly it's true. So we've been doing this for quite some time, and we've been users of the content store since its launch in, I think that was 2016. So we've been right there from the beginning of the content store. We scan most of our content in-house using specialist book scanners and OCR software. And again, we've done that pretty much since the start of it all. So that's just a little bit of background about us. So in terms of all the data, and this is what we really want to talk about, this is just a kind of snapshot of our request data. So everything that comes through to us, whether that makes it through to the DCS platform or not, is recorded in an Excel spreadsheet. And that's just a snapshot of it there. There's additional information as well, but this is the bulk of the information. So we've got the basic information like course details, student number, faculty and school, tutor, book title, chapter title, how many pages we've scanned, how that request has come through to us, whether it's come directly via an academic, whether it's come via our web form, what our stock is, have we got print stock of that item, have we got electronic copy, have we got a copy at all, whether there's existing content in the DCS that we can potentially use. Is that crowdsourced? Is it born digital content directly from the publisher? And have we selected it? Have we used that content, or have we scanned it ourselves? Also got information there about the status, the final status of it. Is it complete? Is it in progress? Have we declined it? And why have we declined it? So this just helps us keep track of the process, of the request process prior to everything being completed. So there's a lot of good information in there, and it's information that's important for us to keep, and that information has kind of changed over the years as well. So we've kind of slowly recorded more and more information as we felt the need to keep track of different things in different areas. So there's a lot of good information there, but as it stands, it's in a spreadsheet. Nobody really interacts with it. Once we've completed a request, there's no real interaction with it beyond that point. And what we've got here is the downloads per content item report direct from the CLA, and we've actually taken this from the article on this CLA website, that making the most of your data. So we've kind of taken a screenshot from that. And that's probably where we started to think, what can we do with the data? You know, because we want to do something useful with this data. There's a lot, again, there's a lot of information there. What can we actually do with it? So I think that was the starting point for us, really, in terms of fantastic. We can do all this VLOOKUP and the pivot tables. What else can we do? So we kind of use that as a starting point, I guess. And really, that's exactly what we wanted to do. We wanted to make the most of the data, essentially, because we weren't doing that. You know, in many ways, it kind of felt we got to the end of the process, something was complete. We sent the links out to the students, to the academics, sorry, who would then pass it on to the students. We would add that to reading lists online, inform colleagues, and that would be the end of the process. And we kind of felt we're working in the dark a little bit because we don't see what happens beyond that point without really interrogating the data, and that's not always easy. So what did we want? What did we want to do? Now, because we're a small team, it is literally 2 or 3 of us looking after the DCS and all the copyright cleared material that we scan. And because, you know, we've been doing it for a long time, I've certainly been involved in this for a long time. We know a lot of information anecdotally. We know what our big users are. We know the health department will use us consistently year in, year out. We know that perhaps engineering doesn't use us an awful lot. We know that we scan most of our material in-house, and we can see that there's more and more publisher original content that we can pick up on. But we really wanted to pinpoint all this information. We wanted to nail it down and do something useful with it. We wanted to combine both sets of data, our request data and the CLA download data. And naturally, there are some kind of overlaps there in terms of the information that's recorded because of the information we need to keep and the information that's kind of fed into the DCS. But we wanted to do something with that data. We wanted to combine it, link it all together, and try to build an accurate picture and a good understanding of how our service is used. What routes academics take to get to us. Do they come to us directly? Do they come via colleagues? Do they use the web form more? And how does this change over time? What our engagement levels are like with the final product, with the digitized content, and again, how that changes over time. So essentially, we wanted to visualize all of that data. And we wanted to use those visualizations to gain insights into our service usage. We wanted to assess user engagement. We wanted to be able to use that data to produce reports, whether that's in-house or for academics or for other colleagues, to give them the insights of the data as well, so academics know that their content is being used or not being used. And we wanted to promote the service as well, to get people interested in the service, so we can, you know, really say this can be a benefit to your students. Digitizing content when it's used can be a real benefit. So we wanted to do all that. And we wanted to do it all in a much more effective and much more efficient and a much more dynamic way. And Power BI seemed the best way to kind of start to think about doing that. So what did we actually need to do that? One of the most important things we needed was clean and consistent data, because we've kept a lot of information over a lot of years, and that information has changed. Things like school names have changed quite a lot, department names, team names have changed quite a lot, labeling conventions have changed. So it's pinpointing all that data that's the same kind of data, making it standard, making it as consistent as we possibly can. You know, there's not much point gathering all this data and it's full of inconsistencies. We needed to really nail that down. We needed help. I am far from an Excel expert or a data expert in any kind of way, so we absolutely needed help. And this is where Sean came in, our library data officer. Sean and IT. So it's been a cross team and cross department project that we've been working on. And we needed to ask ourselves, so what? You know, not only so what do we want to achieve, what are the questions that we want to ask and to answer with this particular data, but also in a kind of really literal sense, so what? You know, is it worthwhile? There's potentially a lot of work here, and is it worth our time? Is it worth Sean's time? Is it worth IT's time? Is it beneficial? You know, can we create a useful tool out of all this data? So ultimately, we had to ask ourselves, can we be Kevin Costner in Field of Dreams? Not sure we've quite answered that yet, but I think we're kind of getting there. And I think that's quite a good frame of reference anyway. You know, picture Kevin there lost in the sea of data and trying to define something useful with it. So there were kind of various stages to that in terms of cleaning up the data, making sure the data was of the right quality, that it was standardized, you know, so it can be found, it can be trusted, it can be understood. We needed to look at what questions we wanted to address, what was the scope of it, and looking at building a proof of concept dashboard. And again, this is exactly where Sean came in to give us that expertise with the data, with Excel, and with Power BI. So I don't know, Sean, if this is where you want to pop in and have a few words about the process and Power BI.
Sean, you're on mute there. I think we can't, at least I can't hear you. I suspect it's not just me.
It might be a microphone
You all right
setting.
there, Sean?
I love the irony of it. The IT experts struggling to get the mic to work.
No.
No.
Yet.
Hello.
Hey, that's it.
We're back
There
in
we
the
go.
room.
Look at that. All that prep and drama, and you're on mute. It feels like the old COVID days.
Hey, bless those days.
There we go. Happy days. Okay, so long story short, so when I joined this project with Lee, we needed a bit of a plan. We had the data, and we know it's well-structured data, and we know it's reliable, but we needed to make sure that we could clean it, it's the right quality, and the hardest part, the data's fine, but the hardest part, as Lee mentioned, is define the question. You know, what are we trying to answer? What insights are we looking for? And then how useful is that going to be for Lee and other colleagues within the service? And it's hard work, but then that's when we had to go through the data and then build proof of concept dashboards and test. Because just when we thought we got it right, we found some little error in the data somewhere else, and it was giving missed signals, and the data was slightly lumpy. So that's where the defining the question and testing the data was important, and then collaborating with Lee and Lee's team and going through that lumpy stage with the data, because I was looking at that data not knowing, because I don't work in digitization. It was literally go back and proofing it and checking it again and again. And I think, you know, like mainly it does take a bit of time, and we probably did have annoying long meetings, but it is starting to be fruitful with that. So is there anything else, Lee?
No, that's great. Cheers, Sean. So I think what we'll do is move on, hopefully without any technical difficulties, to a live demo. We'll talk you through that, and you just chip in when it seems right. Sean, just bear with me.
So while Lee sets that up, that ultimately, as an analyst, what I wanted was to look at two lots of data or more through one lens and have a look at one big story. And I think that was at the foundation of what we were trying to do with this. Well, I think, and I'm pretty much sure where we are with this right now. So from the user point of view, you don't know it's two lots of data being pumped into it. You're just looking at one big story to create a discussion. So I think using Excel spreadsheets, you can spend half the day pivot tabling the hell out of something and still not knowing what you're looking at. And that's ultimately why we think we needed to use Power BI. Okay. And the annoying thing with Power BI, it really does magnify lumpy data. Sometimes you don't see it in Excel, but Power BI just puts a big arrow pointing towards it. So it's good, but also frustrating.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Again, there seems to be a slight delay, but hopefully that should be coming up any second now. Okay, so hopefully you can see the first page of our dashboard there. And as Sean says, it does highlight any kind of inconsistencies, any lumpy data. You will see those pretty much instantly. And as frustrating as that can be, it's also really useful because it's a much more effective way of spotting where something isn't quite working or something that you think you've got nailed down. You possibly haven't, but it identifies that, and you can then resolve that much quicker. So I'll just talk you through, we've got several pages here, but I'll just talk you through the main pages that we use in terms of the dashboard. So as Sean said, it is combining the two sets of data. We've got our request data and the CLA usage data. Now, these first couple of pages are literally looking at the request information. So any request that comes into us for a copyright cleared book chapter or journal article. And like I say, we record everything, even if we turn something away or it's a second extract that we can't meet or it's not covered by the license. We want to keep a track of everything that comes through to us. So just a quick look across the top then here. We've got our filters all across the top here. So we can search by academic year, filter by academic year, filter by faculty, by status, by route. And we've got a course code search field in there as well. We've got headline figures across here. And I've got this at the minute set to the academic year 2022-23. So we can see straight away for this academic year, we've had 123 requests. And, we're kind of literally just into February. So we're a small team. That's quite a decent start for us looking into the academic year. And we can see from those 123 requests, so far we've scanned 1,863 pages. So straight away, you can see we've got some useful information there. And then this is a breakdown of that information. So we can see here that our different faculties, so we can see straight away that our health faculty, they've got 88 of those particular requests. ADM with 24, that's our art faculty. And our business law and social sciences faculty, they've got 11 of those requests. What you can't see here is our engineering faculty who haven't sent us a request this year as yet. So again, that's all good, useful information to have. And if we look at the next chart along, we can see again, of those 123 requests have come through to us, 73 have come to us directly from the academic. 26 have come from a web form we've got on our library site, and 24 have come from our collection management and engagement colleagues. So again, it's starting to give us a picture of how our service is used, and you know, that's all visual information, which is much more useful than just having this stored in an Excel spreadsheet. So we can see straight away there, you know, how the service is being used. And again, we can see, you know, the majority of that is from print stock that we'll be scanning from. Some of it is from electronic titles that we've perhaps have got low licenses for. You know, if we've got something that's an unlimited ebook, for example, then there's no point us extracting pages from that. But where we've got a single user license or a 3-user license, then it's worthwhile. Or if we haven't got any stock and we've had to go to EHES, you know, to get a library, an article, then we can see straight away that that's there. Also, you know, we can start to see the picture of whether that content there's already exist in the DCS. So we can see, you know, at the minute, the majority of that is no. There's a fair few crowdsourced items in there, and some of it is publisher original content. And we're seeing more and more of that. Obviously, we're seeing more and more crowdsourced content, and more, obviously, publisher original content as well, which if that's in there, then we will absolutely use that. There's no point of scanning anything if we can take it direct from the publisher. So again, we can, and as we can filter through this, we can see how that changes over time. If I just knock that off and go to a different one, so you can see all these filters change as we move through. So it's dynamic and it's responsive, and we can, you know, filter that through to different faculties, and all that information changes. So it's all linked, and we can filter on pretty much anything we've got set there.
And one of the things that we are going to look at, Lee, if you don't mind, could you click on Hell? If you could, would you click on Hells for me?
Yep.
At the bar. Happy days. So again, I'm sure most of you are familiar with Power BI, etc. But one of the things that we're looking at in the future is the big person in the room there is Hells, followed by ADM and BLSS. What I want to do is go by faculty size as well, so it's proportionate, so we can gauge by proportion of how many are engaging with Hells and ADM, just so that we can move away from, okay, well, BLSS, that looks like a negative signal because it's so small, but we want to put it to the size of the actual faculty as well. And now that Lee has actually got that good data in there, we can start to build that coding in to look at how it relates to the actual faculty, to give that bit more insight, which will relate to the colleagues within the service.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Back to you, Lee.
Yep. Cheers. Absolutely. That's one of the big things that we want to do next is look at that proportionality and, you know, really assess the usage and how that correlates to other aspects. So again, just a quick look at the second page of the request information. So here we can just see, you know, of these 123 for this year, we can see that we've completed 99 of those. We've had to decline 18 of those, you know, and we can see the reasons why they've been declined. So, you know, the extent limit has been reached. So maybe they've asked for 2 or 3 chapters or more than 10%. So we've had to turn that away, or items are excluded from the license. So again, it's building that picture of how the service is used and how that changes over time. And another useful thing, I can see straight away here that I've got a few queries that I need to chase up. If perhaps an academic has been in touch and they haven't quite given us the right information, we will get in touch straight away and say, you know, could you provide further details, or can we clarify this for us? So let academics being academics, sometimes they get back in touch, sometimes they don't. So this is a good handy reminder that I've still got some queries that I need to chase up, or we've got a book that's on order. So again, it's just a quick visual hit of a picture of where we are at the moment. Okay, so if I move across to, let's see, if we just look at, say, the most accessed extracts, for example, again, all the filters are across here and the headline figures are across here. I've got this currently set to 2023. So we can see that in 2023, we had just over 26,000 views. We had 1,300 downloads and material was printed 376 times. Okay, and again, we've got that breakdown by faculty here. And again, you can see that our health faculty are the big user, and that scales down through our art, through business, and through engineering. And here we've got the most viewed titles. So again, and you've got the figures here. So our most viewed title in 2023 was viewed 583 times. So this is really useful for getting information to collection management colleagues who are responsible for different faculties and different schools, to tell them how their content is being used. We can send reports to academics to tell them how their content is being used as well. So it's all good information, just a snapshot of how the service is being used and how students are engaging with this digital content. And we've got a more detailed page here. I'll just tab that off. So again, I'm just set for 2023. And again, the headline figures are still there, exactly the same. We've got 26,000 views for this particular year. But we've got various search functionality, search boxes in this page. So we can search by extract title, we can search by course code, we can search by course name, extract author, title. So as long as the data is in there, we can add some kind of search functionality to look at that data. So if I just pop a course code in there. Okay, so that's identifying the course code, again, looking at the engagement data, and that comes up straight away. So in 2023, for this particular nursing course, we can see this had almost 3,500 views, 90 downloads and 39 prints. And we get a breakdown of all those different titles down here as well. So we can see, what's being accessed, what's being printed, what's being downloaded. So again, we just get a visual representation of all that information. So what we've got here really is a kind of a single source of truth, I guess, in terms of our request data, our usage data. We've got a one-stop shop of looking at this data and interrogating this data, and so we can see what's being used and what's not being used, and we can really help us to promote the service and to inform other people of how their content is being used.
And I guess this is the one part of the dashboard that moves out digitisation, and colleagues, say in collection management, can start engaging with Lee and engaging with what's been used and viewed, etc. So we're already moving out of Lee's department and assisting other colleagues just via that one page. Yeah,
that's it. And coming back to what you were talking about a minute ago, Sean, in terms of looking at it in relation to actual figures here, and this is quite a good example. This is a nursing course from health, which is our biggest user. So we can see, just for this particular course, we've got almost 3,500 views. So that's really, really good. But what we need to look at is how many students are actually on this course. There could be about 300 students, 350 students on a nursing course. So we need to look at the ratio of that, the kind of percentage hit rate. If we compared that to a course in, say, our art department, a creative writing course, for example, where you've got much less students, we might find an article that's been accessed 12 times, but if you've only got 15 people on that course, then you need to know what that percentage rate is, because that's still a good figure. You know, it doesn't look at in isolation, but if you look at that in terms of the actuality and the proportion hit rate, then it's a much healthier kind of picture.
Lee, can I ask you, do you
Sure.
record that anywhere? I mean, I know that you had your student numbers in somewhere or other. Do you have a column for, you know, percentage of students on course or anything?
At the minute we don't, but that's one of the big things that we want to do next. We wanted to get the dashboard to a certain stage, and it's gone through various iterations, and you know, we've put a lot of work into it to get to this stage, but it is really just the start of it, and we think that's the next thing we want to do as a kind of priority for this dashboard, so we can say, yes, this is being used really well, we can see the figures are high, but we want to look at that in terms of, you know, you've got X amount of students on there. What's the proportion of students that are being are engaging with this content? And that should be a much more effective way of looking at it. And again, it gives us a better picture of how the service is used. So I'll just show you the trends page as well. Again, all the filters are across here, all fully interactive. We've got the headline figures in terms of number of views and downloads and prints, but you can see this month by month. You know, so you can look at the peaks and troughs, which is pretty much as you would expect, really. So, you know, we have a lot of use in January, and then that kind of dips down as students break up for the summer, and then we get a huge spike, you know, as students come back September, October, and again, it starts to tail off. But we can look at this year by year by year and assess the different trends as we go through. So again, we can get a really good picture of how the service is being used.
And from that, there is going to be a seasonality kind of approach to this. We know when the students are going to attend, when they're going to inductions, etc. But with this data, the next step from an analyst point of view is to look at forecasting, or look at what particular days of the week are particularly busy, and start to look at the trends going by, where we can compare one academic year to the previous. Everything, now we're coming out of the COVID weirdness, we can start to look at that trend over years, and do a bit of, maybe start looking at predictive analytics, or a bit of wizardry on Power BI. And stepping back a second, the proportionality, the number of students, yes, long story short, that can be done in Excel. But what I want to do is take away the Excel work from Lee and use SITS data, and have that, just because it's in Power BI and in the data warehouse, the data's already there. And what I want to do is automate that a little for Lee. So we're already looking at that proportionate just by refreshing the Excel spreadsheet. So it's definitely on our radar, but as most of you probably know, SITS data is quite lumpy at best of times. So, but that's on our radar to do next.
Yeah, fantastic. I've just clocked the time. We've got a couple of slides left, so I'll kind of rush through these. So we've got time for questions as well. And I think we've probably covered most of what we want to say anyway. But in terms of the dashboard benefits, there we go. So yeah, it combines the visualizations of our request data, of the usage data from the CLA, and it allows us to interrogate that in a much better, a much more dynamic and a much more kind of aesthetic kind of way. And as Sean says, it does take away a lot of that time spent in Excel, you know, with the formulas and the lookups and the pivot tables. If you can interact with the dashboard, it's much cleaner and it's much easier to do that, and it's much easier to use that as a tool for promotion, as a tool for generating reports or helping us to generate reports. It's much easier to interact with it in that kind of way. And it helps us to review the trends, it helps us to promote the service. You know, if we can see at a glance what's being used and what's not being used. You know, it gives us a chance to shout about our successes with different departments and different schools, but it also, where it's perhaps not working as well as we would like it to, you know, it gives an opportunity to try and understand why that is. Is it proportionality? Do we need to promote the service a bit more in different schools, in different departments? Do we need academic champions in certain schools to help us do that? So it starts to give us the opportunity to have those conversations about what we can do better, essentially. And it's all driven by the data insights that we'd seen from the data via the dashboard, which we wouldn't have had without that. So in terms of future developments, I think we've probably touched on a lot of these already, but we want to increase the search functionality, maybe incorporate KPIs in terms of how long it's taking us to complete requests. The big thing is, as we've both mentioned, is looking at that target audience hit rate. You know, are the students that should be looking at this information actually looking at it? And we'd like to add information on new courses that we create as well. So tied in with that, you know, we've got other areas of our department as well, our little digitization department that we'd like to build dashboards for. So we allocate RNIB bookshare accounts to students who qualify for that, you know, so we'd like to get information on that. We've got Alma Digital as our digital library platform, so our student projects, our exam papers are stored there. So again, we want to look at engagement for that. And we want to have kind of suite of dashboards for our department, so we get a good picture of our department as a whole, but then link that to other data and other dashboards from across the department, across library and learning resources, and potentially across the university as well. So we're looking at a bigger picture of engagement here and how we can link all that together to gain additional insights. So I think that's it from me. And anything else for you to add, Sean?
No, we've already got the dashboard in the data warehouse that mirrors what we've built for collection management. So we've kind of almost ticked that box. But if I had an ultimate wish list, it'd be brilliant if we could just plug the dashboard straight into the direct to where the data comes from. So we've got that API set up, and you can just set it up and let it run in the background. But it's pretty straightforward at the moment, just uploading a couple of spreadsheets. But going forward, to have automation would be superb.
Yeah. So we appreciate that's been a kind of whistle-stop tour of our kind of journey so far with the dashboard and what we've done with it, the key stages of that and the key benefits to it. We could both probably talk for hours about it all, to be honest. So if anybody is interested in a kind of deeper dive into this, then, you know, our contact details are there. We'd be more than happy to, you know, do another team session and talk people through it. Or if anybody's got any ideas that they, you know, that they think we should be looking at, we'd love to hear those as well. So,
Brilliant.
Yeah, apart from that, any questions? We're all done. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Lee and Sean. And if you do have questions, feel free to pop them in the chat. I've slightly lost the chat, but I think I can see it now. Yeah, great. So far, just thank you. In the meantime, I know that lots of other HEIs are using Power BI, combining with information from registry, from reading list management systems, so Talus, Leganto, that kind of thing as well. I really like how I think this is a great model to show, because it is quite sort of contained to the DCS information at the moment. So it's really nice to see what you can do with that, because I know also there are lots of HEIs who are not kind of looking at it in this way at all. So there's a real mix of ways of looking at data at the moment. And personally, I'm quite visual, so I like the dashboard and the visualizations you've done. I think they're great. Got a question from Rona. What reading list are you using, and what VLE do you use?
Okay, so we're using key links as our reading list at the minute. Subject to change, but at the minute it's key links, and Moodle is our VLE. Yeah, and a Moodle audit. We're going through a Moodle audit at the minute as well in terms of what's there and what shouldn't be there. So again, that's another area that we could potentially get some good data on and build another dashboard and link that to engagement and request information as well. Yeah.
Brilliant, thank you. Are there any other questions for Lee and Sean? Otherwise, can I ask a question to the group? What sorts of things are you doing? Are people doing similar dashboards, or what are you bringing into yours? And we do have another question for you. Which columns in the spreadsheet needed the most cleaning? That is a good question.
Oh, okay. So probably things like the school names, because they change on quite a regular basis, and some of our colleagues' teams change names as well. And we didn't want the dashboard cluttered with variations on a theme. We wanted to, just to have that as timely and as up to date as it is. So we spent a lot of time cleaning that kind of information up, and some of the data we've had to add in retrospectively because we didn't necessarily record it a few years ago. And again, we wanted to have, with the dashboard, we wanted to have a solid picture going back to the inception of the DCS. So we can say from 2016-17, this is an accurate picture of all the information that we've got. So we've spent a lot of time going back and retrospectively adding data to it as well. So it's quite a big job to get through, but yeah, definitely worthwhile, I would say.
Yeah, that's interesting. And it's something, because I look at a lot of HEI reports, and it's interesting, the difference. I mean, basically the not quality of the data, but the consistency of the data makes a real difference to how easy it is to roll things up.
Yeah.
And how consistent you are with faculty names, with department names, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Just, you talked about going back to the inception. It's worth mentioning that yes, we did the data cleanup recently and deleted requests from 2016, 17, 18 academic years, but you can still run reports, but because the actual requests have gone, I think you'd have to if you want to do something similar and clean up retrospectively, probably you'd have to download the reports and then clean it up in the Excel rather than for the data that we've deleted, rather than being able to do it in the system itself. So we've got a bunch more questions for you. Rona's back asking, how will you measure the faculty size? Will it be in terms of number of courses running?
I'm kind of wondering if we should, sorry, Sean, look at this in terms of, we've got student numbers for each course, obviously, and everything has to be assigned to a particular course. Mm-hmm. So do we look at the hit rate against the number of students that it's actually targeted for? So if there are 350 nursing students on the introduction to nursing courses, how many times is that being used? If it's 200 times, what's that percentage against the 350 students? What about yourself, Sean? Do we look at anything beyond that as well, do you think?
Well, this is where I mentioned earlier, with SITS data being a bit lumpy. It's SITS data, I'm sure, as you all know, it continually updates with student numbers. So it's trial and error. We can go by course and see how accurate that is. But firstly, I was going to start by faculty size and work down. And as the data improves from student population numbers, see how that actually, the maths. Oh, sorry. SITS data is it's the number of all the student data numbers per course, what course they're on, and all the emails, etc. Would it be like a registry of all their data?
So SITS is the system that records your registry data, isn't it?
It is, and it is. And that data, it's always, changing, and then
Yeah.
they go ahead and do a restructure. Which
Can
that
I
doesn't
just,
help
sorry,
either.
we've just hit 12 o'clock, so I don't know if people have places to go to, then feel free to drop off, and thank you very, very much for joining. If anybody, and if Sean and Lee have time, then we could pick up on these other couple of questions as
absolutely,
well.
Yeah.
So if you have to go, thank you very much. And if you can stay, then we'll move on to Sherry's question. What type of web form did you create for digitization requests? You mentioned using it to track your stats.
Yeah, we don't use it to track the stats as such. It's just another route for academics or colleagues to get a request to us. So, you know, we've got a web form that we point people to, which just gives information on.
So is it the academic request form that we have, or is it equivalent that you've created?
It's the equivalent. It's the equivalent, yeah. So they fill that information in terms of the course name, the course code, number of students, book title, chapter details, and that comes through to us as a team. So we don't use it to track stats, but we wanted to find out how many people are using the web form, you know, and how many are contacting us directly by email, how many are coming through collection management colleagues. So it all just helps build that picture up of the service usage.
Thank you. And then I think the last question we've got for now is, how long has it taken to get to this stage?
Oh, that's a question.
Well,
what do you reckon, Sean?
It never stops. I think that the most actually building the dashboard, it isn't that difficult. You know, I think it's defining, like what we mentioned earlier. What are we trying to look at? You know, what's the question that we're trying to answer here, or how can we use it?
So can I reframe the question you're trying to answer? When did you start with this Power BI project?
For this, I can't remember. It was I want to say years ago. No, it's 3 or 4 months ago, wasn't it? Really, or
Okay.
maybe a little bit more. But it
must be more, because we talked more than 3 or 4 months ago. Actually,
we've been thrashing out the idea for a long while, but then when we said, okay, let's sit down and have a proper look. But I needed to get more support from the IT crowd, so we could make use of the data warehouse and make things a little easier for Lee. That took a little longer, but you know, it's not super quick to do this, you know, but it's I don't know what the right answer is, to be fair.
Yeah, and I think that the more we do, the more we realise what works and what doesn't work. You know, there are perhaps some pages there that you don't use as much. So, you know, as we develop this and move on, you know, we can add more information to it. And the more we do, that just triggers some, wouldn't it be good if we could do this as well? If we could pull this information in, if we can get the information here and feed that into it. So there's always something new we can add to it. Yeah.
But we do have that solid
evolution.
Foundation.
There's
Yeah, but we do have that solid foundation now. We're not starting from a blank page.
Exactly.
You know, we know the data is pretty sound, and we can start going into analytics. You know, that side of the conversation than VLOOKUPs. So should be a lot quicker now.
Yeah,
that's brilliant. And then I think that's it for questions. We've just got an observation from Nikki saying that we long ago realised that academics requests, they'll come from wherever the academics happen to be, so giving options. Super. Well, if anyone else has any more questions, then pop them in now, going once, going twice, and otherwise I think you've given your contact details. Perhaps if you're happy to, we could circulate those along with the recording at the end, if you're all right with that, Lee and Sean.
Absolutely, of course.
Cool. Brilliant. In which case, thank you very much to you for coming and presenting and sharing your data. I certainly found it interesting. I think the group have as well. And thank you very much to everyone for coming and asking such fabulous questions.
Yeah, absolute pleasure. Thanks all.
Thank you very much. So that was January. We'll be back later this month with, I'm not actually sure what we're talking about next. And so on that front, if anybody has requests or ideas, do feel free to send them through, perhaps drop us an email or to the team on Zendesk. Welcome again to Stephen L. And thank you very much, everyone. Have a lovely day. Take care.